Good morning, sailors. You just finished 15 minutes worth of ALEKS time to start your math hour today. And so I'm going to take a look, and Mr. Whalen and Mr. Terpstra will take a peek and make sure, with you spending some more time this morning on it, that you're all getting logged in. I know we had our struggles the other day, like I said, and so at this point, hopefully with spending at least 15 minutes this morning getting rolling on that, we can double check and make sure, where there's still some students that aren't getting in and aren't logging in, and so we can reach out to you. But we're hopeful after this short time this morning that all of you or most of you are in and ready to go with ALEKS and continue with it. But now we're going to go back into chapter 2 and back into lesson 1 from yesterday. We started off with looking at percent of a number, and we looked at two ways that you could actually go about solving it. And so in front of you right now is actually page 104. This is what we had started to work through yesterday. And I just wanted to remind you the two methods that we used, and it's at the top here where the star is, to find a percent of a number. Remember, we can take that percent and write it as a fraction and then multiply, or we can take that percent and change it to a decimal and then multiply. Either way, to find your percent of a number, you're using multiplication to solve and find that value for your percent of a number. So we're now we did some examples yesterday that were percents that were less than 100%. They were smaller percentages. So we're going to look at a couple more where percents are greater than 100. And so we're going to go to page 105. That's what I had you on the agenda, turning your book page to. And we're going to go down to the got it on the bottom of page 105 and try these two. And we're going to use those two methods again. And I just want you to realize that there's really no difference here. It's just bigger than 100%. And that's okay. We can still solve them the same way. So in letter E, when it says 150% of 20. Okay, so method 1, right? We talked about taking that percent, and we know all of our percents are over 100%. So 150 over 100. Of, we talked about meant multiplication, 20. And so we also make that a fraction. I just put it as 20 over 1. And then we talked about cross-reducing here. So when I look at 20 and 100, well, I know 20 will divide into 100. And so 20 goes into 20 once here. 20 divides into 100 5 times here. And now I can look at multiplying across. So I've got 150 times 1, 150. And I've got 5 times 1, which is 5. Well, I know, again, that's going to simplify. So if I divided 150 divided by 5, what do you see? Should get 30. Oops. And so if I take and check the other way, right? There's two methods. Now, the second method, we're going to take that percent to a decimal. So remember, you move it 2 places to the left. So that means this becomes, as a decimal, 1.50, or 1.5 is fine, times 20. Okay, double check it, multiply it out. Using your calculator, what do you see? You should get the exact same answer, right? It should be 30. So I want you to think about some mental math with this as well. So instead of going through the process of the fraction or the decimal form and showing the work, think about what 100% of 20 is. So 100% of 20. Well, wouldn't that be 20, right? And then think about 50%. So I'm just breaking that percent apart. 50% of 20. Half of 20. Well, wouldn't that be 10? And so if you combine it, 150%, you would get 30. So that's just the mental math way of thinking of it, right? Look at it outside the box, outside of just doing the work. Look at it and see if you can make sense of the problem. And that's absolutely another way you can do it. Okay, let's try letter F. So 160% of 35. So again, I'm going to show the fraction way to do it. 160% over 100% of times 35. I'm going to put that over 1. And you could reduce here. So 5 is going to divide into both of those. 5 will divide into 35 7 times. 5 will divide into 100 20 times. And then multiply across. So if you did 160 times 7, you're going to get 1,120. And then 20 times 1 in the denominator, 20. Keep simplifying, divide it out. So if you do, you should see 56. And then if we try one more with the decimal form of it, so or, move the decimal 2 places to the left, that 160% becomes 1.60 times 35, right? So that's our second method. Again, what should happen is when you multiply that, and you should check in your calculator as we're doing this, right? Don't always just assume I'm right. I could definitely make a mistake, so make sure you're checking. And if you do see 56 here. So it is correct no matter what method you use. So I'm going to have you try some. Let's go to guided practice. And in guided practice, I would like for you to do number 3. And I'm also going to have you try number 4, story problem. Based on the 2 methods we've used, you could use either method on either one of these, 3 or 4. I'm going to have you pause the video, try those, and then we'll check back on the answers. Okay, let's go back and take a peek. So on number 3 here, you have 110% of 70. So I showed both methods, right? I showed the fraction method and I showed the decimal format. And either way, you're going to get 77. So I'm going to talk about on this one as well, make sense of the problem, okay? So think about 100% of 70. Well, 100% of 70, that's that entire number. It's 70, right? You're talking about the whole number. Now think about 10%. So again, all I'm doing is taking this percentage and just breaking it apart, separating it, grouping it differently. Think about 10% of 70. So if you know, maybe you don't, 10% of any number is always going to move the decimal place only 1 in right here. So that means 10% of 70 is going to be 7. And there it is. 70 plus 7 gives you 110%, 77. So one thing you need to realize is when you do these percentages over 100%, that your answers are always going to be bigger than what you're starting with because you're talking about values that are over 100% of that number. So, right, like in number 3, you're starting with 70, and if you're finding 110% of it, it's 77. It's bigger than that value. Back here, when we were doing the got it's, same thing. When we did 150% of 20, we have a value larger than that. It was 30. 30 is 150% of 20. And same with letter F, 160% of 35. We need an answer that is larger than that, 56. And so that's another way of just checking your work. When you have those large percentages, you're talking about over the amount, over 100%, your answer should be larger. So let's go back to number 4. So just curious if you were able to think about this one and figure it out. And really, you can use both methods that we've been doing. So I show the fraction method here. And notice, yep, it has a tax rate. There's a sales tax rate of 6.5%. And that's okay that there's a decimal there. There's lots of different states in the US, and in some point in this chapter, I'm going to show you what that looks like. All the different sales tax rates in different states. Some have decimals, some are just, whole numbers. There's a wide variety. And so this 6.5% is fine. You can leave that right in the numerator. You don't have to move anything and work that problem out. And you should get $3.25 in tax. Now, if you do the decimal method, that means you just have to be very careful about moving your decimal, because if you choose to do the decimal method, you have to move that decimal 2 places to the left. There is a difference. If you use the fraction, you don't need to move it. If you use the decimal format of it, you absolutely have to move it. You have to get rid of that percent sign, move it 2 places to the left there. It's 0.065. Then multiply that by the $50 backpack. And again, you would see $3.25 in tax. So we get a lot more into tax type of problems. Second half of the chapter. I said, like yesterday in the video, the introduction to chapter 2, there's a lot of situations involving money in this chapter. And so right now what we're doing is this background work on how we calculate and work it out. But these tax type stories absolutely are coming up second half of the book, chapter, sorry. So what I'm going to have you do is, you know what? I think I'm going to do 2 more stories with you, and then I'm going to have you end the hour just working some percent of a number problems out and then checking your answers. So let's take a minute, and I'm on page 107, and let's look at number 10. So number 10 says, suppose there are 20 questions on a multiple choice test. If 25% of the answers are choice B, how many of the answers are not choice B? So let's think about that for a minute. 25% choice B. That means the answer on the test, 25% of the answers on the test were B. Well, then let's say how many of the answers were not choice B? Actually, I probably should have worded. Let's try that again. Not choice B. Well, if 25% are choice B, what percent is not choice B? Well, wouldn't that be 75%? Right? Because you want that add up to 100%. If 25% are choice B, then the other choices, so it could be choice A, it could be choice C, it could be choice D, 75% of the test answer choices are not choice B. So that's important to know, because that's what it's asking you here in the question. How many of the answers are not choice B? We need this information right here. We need to know this. This is what we're going to use in the problem. So on this one, I'm going to stick to just showing the decimal format on it. And so I am going to work out and move that decimal 2 places to the left. So if I'm trying to find out the number of answers that are not choice B, I got to use this 75%, 0.75, 75 hundredths times. Remember, there's 20 questions on the test, times 20. Let's calculate it. Let's see how many answers are not choice B. So hopefully, when you calculated that out, you should see that 15 answers are not choice B. Here's your final right there. So that means if 15 of the answers were not choice B, remember it could be choice A, C, D, whatever, 5 answers, 5 on the test are choice B. So this is final though. This is what we need for our answer, 15. Okay. Oops, I am making a mess. Just trying to box it in, and it wasn't working. Okay, so let's try one more. Let's look down at a number 11. And on this one too, we're going to stick with doing the decimal format. So we're going to take a look at this graphic novel here, and we're going to find the dollar amount of the group discount each student would receive at each park. So if you take a look, you've got Pirate Bay, that's for a ticket to get into that amusement park. It's $35.95, but they're offering a 20% discount. Funtopia is $29.75, but they're offering a 15% discount. And Zoomland, $38.49 for a ticket, and they're offering a 25% discount. So really, we want to see what dollar amount each group is going to save on here, and really we could look at what the better deal is going to be as well. So let's start with Pirate Bay. I'm just going to put PB, Pirate Bay. And I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to stick with the decimal format of this, just like I did in number 10. So we're going to take the price of the ticket and the discount. We're going to take that 20%. We're going to change it to a decimal. So 20% as a decimal, 0.20 times price of the ticket, $35.95. Now we're talking money, so you're going to notice I'm going to start to label and put those dollar signs in. Let's figure it out. So 0.20 times $35.95. Now remember, you're talking money, and when we were doing unit rate in chapter 1, we talked about dollars and cents and how important that is when you're accurate, trying to be as accurate as you can with your answer. Now, you see this decimal when you calculate it, 7.19, which is exactly what we want, because that's what that's saying is you're going to save, that group is going to save $7.19 on a ticket to go to Pirate Bay with that 20% discount. Let's try Funtopia. So I'm going to put FT. And their discount is 15%. So we're going to take that to a decimal. 0.15 times the $29.75 that it is for the ticket. And then let's also calculate this. So each time, right, you have your calculator right next to you. You're using that to work these problems out with me. Now on this one, you get a bigger decimal, and that's okay. So let's start by writing that down, 4.4625. Well, we can't say it's $4 and 4,625 cents, right? That doesn't make sense. So we need to round. So we know our cents have to be in the hundreds. We're going to look at that 2 right there. That's in the thousands. That 2 tells us what to do with that 6. So if I'm talking about rounding or not, we know it's going to be $4, but is that going to be 46 cents or is it going to be 47? Well, since that's a 2 and it's under 5, you don't round. That's going to be $4.46 that they would save if they decide to go to the Funtopia Park with that 15% discount. Okay, one more. Zoomland. Let's see, where am I going to fit that one in? How about I put it right down here, and I'm just going to put ZL. And we're going to take that 25% discount, so 0.25 times price of the ticket there is a little bit more expensive, $38.49. And let's calculate it. 0.25 times $38.49. Okay, now in this one as well, you're going to get a decimal, a longer decimal. So let's write that down. 9.6225. And so since we have to round this to the nearest hundredth, we're going to look in the thousandths. That third place in is a 2 again. And that tells us what to do with the 2 and the hundredths. So that means I'm going to save $9.62 on that ticket. I don't round because it's a 2 in the thousandths. It stays. So $9.62. So when you look at all the discounts between the parks, right, you can now see if you were making a group decision on which one is the better deal to go. Okay. I want you to spend some time practicing. And so you're just going to scroll up to the top of page 107 on the independent practice here. And you're going to end your hour with working through these problems. So I'm going to have you go ahead and do 1 through 9. So I'm going to write this at the top here. Now, I'm putting it in the homework section, but really what I just want you to do is work these out. You should have space in your book, plenty of space to work it out. And when you're done with those 9, I am going to put an answer key. I'll put a link on the agenda for you, or you should see a link on the agenda for you to check your answers on. But notice it says find each number, round to the nearest 10th if necessary. Nearest 10th if necessary. And yeah, I think you know what, I'm going to have you, let's kind of vary this up a little bit. So I want you to practice both methods. How about you take, let's go this row and this row. And I want you to practice the fraction form of it, okay? This row right here, 7 through 9, do the decimal. So fraction format on the first 6, decimal format on 7, 8, and 9. So I'm going to end the video, and then you're going to, when you finish, go back to the agenda, find the answer key, click on the answer key so you can check your answers. And then I will end up seeing you tomorrow. Now, if you end up having a little bit more extra time at the end, then you could always go back to Alex if you would like. But other than that, we're all set for the day. So enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. See you tomorrow.